Hey everybody, it is Tara, and I have to quiet my friend the wait bot. Thank you. It is Thursday night, and you know what that means. It means that we are back with Modern Mom Probs Live. I am your host, Tara Clark. Today I am sitting fireside, just to keep it on brand. I'm super excited to be bringing on my BFF, Katie Mulvaney. Today we're going to be talking about the mental load of mother. It's an important topic. It's a topic that I talk about every chance that I get. Let's bring Katie on and we'll talk about it together. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I thought that you would be sitting fireside.
It was too hot today. I feel like it's like 70 degrees out. So
It's true. It's true.
I changed it up.
Early November and it's 70 something degrees outside, which is kind of bananas.
Yeah, absolutely. Not expected, but it's a beautiful day. But yeah, I thought if I sat by the fire, I might get a little too hot. So.
You'd be sweating your something off. So yeah, I get it. This actually doesn't really kick off a lot of heat, but it doesn't matter. Katie, I'm so excited to see you again. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm great. I tried a new lipstick out today because, many times they say like when you're on camera, you need a bold lip. So give me a clap or a thumbs up if you guys like my bold lip, because I thought I would just go with something. Thank you. Something different. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, we're going to be talking about the mental load of motherhood, which it's an all-encompassing topic. It's something that I covered on my podcast. It's something that we're going to cover today. I feel like we could literally talk about this like every day, unless I'm wrong.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think if you're going to say the number one thing you don't expect from motherhood in general before you have kids, I would say it's the mental load. It's like, even when you hear about it, it can't be that bad, right? And then you experience it and you're like, oh yeah, okay, this is tricky.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's one of those things where you would almost like never think to warn somebody about that when they're becoming a mom, because it's so like second nature to us now. Like I wouldn't think to be like, oh, we're at your baby shower and, like you're going to talk about sleeping and eating and that kind of stuff. But you don't think about like, oh, and by the way, you're going to have to think about all of the things every day for the rest of your life.
Right. And if you drop a ball, then like you mess up for your kids and they're like really upset. So
yeah, you mess up for your kids and then like your partner's looking at you like, like, what'd you do that for? And you're like, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep everything together. I'm just trying to like hold it all together. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot. When did you first notice the mental load?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, I think I always noticed it to some extent, but I would say that it definitely gets a little worse in each next phase, right, of parenting. And, now it's, even like go to the pool. I feel like every time I go somewhere with my kids, let me just say it this way, like any trip, we go to the shore, we go to wherever, right? I always forget something important. Like, I don't want to say I'm nailing it.
No. Me too.
One day that I'm like, ooh, snacks. Foods, like.
It's always something. Like I wrote a meme, this was like years ago, but it still rings true, is motherhood is packing up everyone for the beach and forgetting your own bathing suit.
Absolutely.
And I think that really sums it up. Or like, for the winter, it's like motherhood is packing up everyone to play in the snow and you forgot your jacket.
Right, exactly.
Because you're so concerned with, like you said, like getting the snacks and the towels and getting everyone in their swim clothes or whatever. And so then like, you're like, we went on vacation. I forgot to pack a bra for myself, because you're thinking about everyone else. And there's like a real like caregiver aspect there, that you're giving so much of yourself, then you forget to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. And it's like, even when you do remember, like the other day, my son's school, they take him to the pool. It's through the Y, and they have swim classes. So you have to, on Tuesdays, we have to get him ready for swim class and pack a bag with a change of clothes and a towel in it. And I did it. I remembered it, right? And I dropped off school and I got home and the bag was sitting on the front seat, right? Like
Oh
it's like even that. So even when
no.
you remember, there's still like all these things that you're like, hot mess, right?
Yeah. But you know what? Like you say hot mess, but like you should give yourself grace because like at least like you've signed them up for the swim lessons, right? And at least
True.
like, you thought through all of that because like we want the best for our kids, but it's just so much to remember all the time.
All the
So
time.
I agree. Like I didn't notice about the mental load of motherhood until not right away, like probably like out of the newborn phase because you were so in like survival mode that the only thing you're doing is like keeping yourself alive and keeping this baby alive. And so
Right.
like that's all just such survival mode. But once you get back into like, or once you get into like a routine of like, okay, this is what my new normal looks like now. This is like my life as a parent, then you realize all those things. It's the birthday parties. And like now I have to get like a birthday gift and a birthday card and then wrap that birthday gift and then also bring my child to that birthday party and stay there for 2 hours and then drive home. And so it's like all of those little things, sort of
And
like
like
death by a
guess if they're
thousand
gonna
cuts.
eat food or not at the party, and like right, there's like even more
Yes.
to it. I feel like
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 all of that kind of
does he
stuff.
need anything for the activity? Does it's
Yes. Is he dressed appropriately? Does he need a certain pair of socks or like, does he need sneakers or like whatever it is? And it's like all
Mhm.
of those things that like you wouldn't have known or thought of before you became a parent. But now once you are, or once you have been, became a parent, then like it's just all of that. And like I said, it's second nature. So my cousin is having a baby shower this weekend. And I feel like I almost like want to tell her about it, but like, I don't know. I should just give her my book and be like, here's my book. Like there's a chapter about it. You could read about it in the chapter.
Honestly, it's almost like we said though. Like even if you know about it, you don't get it right until you're
Yeah.
like experiencing it. So just let her just let her figure it out.
Let her figure it out
Down
herself.
there when you
But
need
that's
me,
why
right?
we're here talking about these things so that she's not like, crying in
No,
a
I'm saying
corner
like
like,
I'm there when you need me. When you're like, oh yeah, I get it.
when
Let's
you're
talk.
ready, Tiana, then you then you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things too. And then like there's a second layer to this conversation of like, is it a societal thing, right? Is it because like we as women tend to have more of those responsibilities put on our shoulders and it's sort of like assumed that we're going to take care of it. It's assumed that we're going to provide snacks for the class. It's assumed that the mom's going to do those things. So like let's talk a little bit about that. Like what do you think about like the societal pressures that we feel?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think about this a lot and I wonder, is it the societal pressures? Is it pressures we're putting on ourselves? Or is it
Yep.
just something that like and this is a very general statement,
Yep.
so don't give something, but like maybe it's just something women are better at, right, than men, like juggling a lot of thoughts and activities, like all this stuff at the same time and straightening them out, like more organized. It's not to say there aren't men that are great at it, and there's not to say there are moms or women that aren't, but like, I always wonder that, like, is that just something that women, really thrive with? And, you know, or is it that we just want things done a certain way, right? There's so many possibilities.
That could also be it, is that we just really also want things done a certain way. It's really true. I mean, it's been something that I was struggling with for a really long time. And until I started having these conversations, with podcasts and like through social media and stuff like that, did I even bring it to like my husband or like that he even became aware of it.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that we have had these discussions and that he is aware of it, because now I won't like, hang him with a piece of laundry or anything like that. So like we're in a better way about that. But I think it's important to talk to your partner about splitting up responsibilities when you can.
Mhm.
Some couples will sit down and say, okay, you handle all of the birthday parties. I'm going to handle all of the extracurricular activities. And then we kind of just do it that way. And so that there's more of a fair balance or a fair shift of those things. And like, that's your domain. Like your domain is booking all of the doctor's appointments. I don't even want to hear about it. I'm just going to book the doctor's, you book the doctor's appointments. I'll handle the pet grooming, whatever it is. I know that cream is kind of random, but but like there are some couples that have like a really like clear distinction. Do you and your husband have an idea or a distinction between those things, or do you take on most of the stuff?
I don't want to say I take on most of the stuff or that we have clear distinct. I think we're both, um, we're we're both getting better at it as we go along. I think because originally when you have kids and like say like a holiday's coming and you're not like aware that you need to plan ahead and like all this stuff and it's like the day before and like you're both scrambling.
Yeah.
So I feel like me and my husband kind of both share the scrambling aspect of it, and we'll sit down at the beginning of the weekend and be like, okay, we have this birthday party, this activity, and this other thing. Like, who's doing what? Who's going to take which kid? Blah, blah, blah. Or we both go. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a conversation we have, but I don't think we have like that clear distinction to split things up. I think what's biggest for us is just communication. And, I think the other thing is we do say there's a big mental load for motherhood, but I'm sure there's like got to be a mental load that's associated with fatherhood as well that
I'm sure.
that I don't understand. So yeah, that's why I think communication is really just huge. Do you guys split it up? Do you have a method?
No, no. We're better about it. No. I'll tell you, we're better about it than we were probably like a few years ago because of we're having these conversations, right? So like, there's a thing like I do laundry. I do the laundry. I fold it. I put it away. Lately, he's been better about cooking dinner. So like he'll cook dinner, not every night, but many nights. Like he'll cook dinner and then I'll clean up the kitchen afterwards. He handles all of like the outside things as far as like cleaning the garage, and because men love to clean the garage. If they have a garage, they love to clean the garage. So he likes to clean the garage and like do all of that kind of stuff. And I'm more obviously like interior kind of stuff. But as far as like, the birthday parties or the calling anything, it always falls on me. He'd like to say that it's because he feels shy to call doctor's appointments or the like, I don't know, contractor for whatever. But yeah, that usually falls on me too. But an interesting story, I'll tell you two interesting stories about that. There's another couple that I know who they do have it split, like smack down the middle. So it's like the husband takes care of all of the doctor's appointments and then the wife takes care of other things. There was a point where the father was trying to make an appointment for the child, and then they just kept like calling the mother to then like confirm the appointment. And the mother's like, I don't know because I didn't make the appointment and I didn't handle this. And so like, you're asking me questions like, I don't know the scheduling because I'm not the one that does it. So I can't confirm it. And so it's just interesting that the default does always go back to the mother. And then a few weeks ago, I was out to lunch with a friend of mine. Our sons are in the same class. And my husband was also home that day, but he was like working from home. And my son was sick and the nurse was calling me. And I don't know, I was having a weird cell phone issue that day. So like my calls were like immediately going into voicemail. And so long story short, she'd called me several times and I just missed it. Like my phone just like wasn't working well. And then like I happened to see it on my, like I have like a watch, like a Samsung watch. And I happened to look down and see that I had a missed call from the school. And so I said to my friend, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like I have to, leave lunch. And so I picked Jack up and he was like, Mom, like the nurse was calling you for hours. And I was like, I didn't get it because like it just like wasn't connecting with my phone properly. But they never called my husband once, who was home all day and could have very easily have grabbed my son. And so it's just an interesting thing about the mother often being the default parent in those situations.
True. It's interesting too that they wouldn't call him once they didn't get a hold of you.
Yeah, they didn't.
Because I know a lot of times they have like a primary and a secondary number, right?
Yeah, they have his number. So they just, like I said, just chose not to. And my son, stayed in I don't know if they called me for hours per se, or maybe they were calling me in the course of like 1 hour and they called me a few times. I don't know the exact story, but they had called me many times.
Yeah.
And like I said, And even once I came home, I said to my husband, I told him the story, and he was like, "Well, why didn't they call me?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know."
Right.
So it is interesting, though, that the moms tend to be the default parent, even if there are other numbers listed.
Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, take your time. We'll have a water break, mandatory water break. This segment brought to you by water.
No, but yeah, I think that's a fairly interesting point. So that, I said earlier, it's not a societal, it might not be a societal thing, but it really is when you think about it that way. As we just think of the moms when being responsible. And I remember reading an article like a couple of years ago that Ruth Bader Ginsburg had written, not when she was in the Supreme Court, but like whatever level she's at right before then.
Yeah.
Where she's like a judge and like, her kids are sick and like she'd be like, can you call my husband once in a while? Like I'm busy, So like,
You're like, I got stuff going on here.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but it's true. I mean, that was a very real example. Like I said, that only happened to me just a few weeks ago, and of course, like I was just out to lunch, which I don't do very often, so it doesn't really matter. And it wasn't with like a work thing or anything. And obviously, no matter what was going on, I would drop whatever I'm doing to go get my sick son. But it was interesting that they called me multiple times and didn't get through. And my husband, who was home, and literally he was working out on the bike when I came home and told him, and he was like, and then I was like, I don't know. But yeah, it goes right back to what you said about the Ruth Bader Ginsburg story. I think that there's a lot of societal expectations that we may not realize because we may be like conditioned to a certain extent to think like, well, this is normal because it's always been the way that it is, but like not necessarily, or maybe like it doesn't have to be like that, right?
Yeah. I do have to say my kids' school is very good about that. They ask for like a primary and secondary contact, and I think the reason is because it's through like my job. So some people's fathers work there, some people's mothers work there. So I guess, you would just call whoever's closest. But so, I mean, I'm lucky there, but I can imagine, and I know the doctor's offices, I always get the phone calls and the bills, right?
Right. Well, that's true too. Right. Not only like do you have to call the doctor to make the appointment, go with your child to the appointment, do like pick up any medication that you need to at the pharmacy, and then you're the one that receives the bill and has to write the check for the bill when it comes in the mail.
Right. Exactly.
Right. It's like all of those little things that, like we said, like you would never think about or think through until you actually like see it either written out or, have these conversations. Do you realize just how much it adds up all together?
Absolutely. And it's the little things too that like, we always talk about these things when we talk about the mental loads, like the doctor's appointments, the activities, the maintenance of the house, all this stuff. But it's like the small things too, where it's like a theme day at school, right?
Yes.
It like throws you over the edge, right? It's like, I don't have an outfit from the 70s for my 4-year-old.
I don't have crazy hair day, like I have crazy hair day every day, so it doesn't matter. But no, it's those types of things. Like you're keeping track of like, oh, today's tie-dye day and tomorrow's 70s day. And like, we're the ones usually that tend to keep track of that kind of stuff because we know that our children want to participate in that and they'll feel bad if they're not a part of, what's going on in school. And like, we keep track of all of those things and it's a lot.
It does.
Like I said, in the past recent months and like the past year or two, my husband and I have been much better about having this discussion, and he's making a real earnest effort to try to take some things off of my plate. Like I said, whether it's like cooking or whether it's like helping my son with his homework, especially because like fourth grade math is really when it starts to become like a little bit trickier than like just regular elementary school math. So he's been helping with him with his homework and just some of those other things that normally would fall on me anyway. And also with the pandemic, he's been working from home more often, not every day, obviously, but more frequently. And so that can help as well.
Absolutely.
But I recently wrote a mental load checklist to go through, like, so that a person who has a partner, you can sit down with your partner and go through all of the different essentially chores or different things in one's household and try to assign the responsibility so it doesn't all just fall on one person. whether
Absolutely.
male or female. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a lot. And it's like we said, my husband's similar, like he takes care of a lot of the house maintenance
mhm.
and I have no idea how to even do that, right? So for sometimes I'll be getting frustrated and be like, why isn't he helping with this? But then I'm like, oh yeah, that's a lot of stuff too, right? So
It is. I mean,
he's
that
been
is the
keeping that
thing
stuff
too.
in.
It's like you said, talking about the mental load of fatherhood, like there's a lot that they're thinking about, whether it's their jobs as well, and then like their relationship with the children, because like,
Mhm.
maybe they know that, we as the moms, like, and the primary caregiver, like, are very close with our kids, and maybe they also want to have a similar kind of relationship, with the closeness. And so I think that there are different things that we as moms don't know or can't anticipate what the dads are going through.
Absolutely. But,
Yeah.
it all comes down to it. It's a lot. And I say to my husband, I had children later. We were a little older when we had kids and so we experienced adulthood for a while without kids, but like, oh my gosh, it gets 10 times harder when you have children. You think like a little bit, it's like, oh, a small human. No, it gets like a lot harder.
It
And
like turns it all the way up.
yeah, exactly. And it's really a lot. Like it's just always something going on or you have to
Yeah.
do or oh my gosh. Like we used to have downtime where we'd sit down and relax. Like we can't what? I can't even imagine that now.
You'll get there. And I know that people always say, like, don't say that to, younger moms, but I'm saying it to you now. It's like, you'll get there. It will happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It might happen the next like 5 or 6 years, but it's going to happen.
It's going to. And then I'll miss these days. I know I will already.
That's what people say. But what's funny? I don't miss it.
That's funny.
No, it's like when I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh, he was cute. I think like, oh, he was cute, but I don't think like, oh gosh, I miss having a crying toddler.
That's fair.
Like he was really cute. His little hands were cute and his little face
Like,
and his little butt.
yeah.
And like he was cute, but like I don't miss that. I like him now as like having conversations and hanging out and watching like America's Funniest Home Videos together and laughing at people falling off of horses. Like that's the kind of stuff that we're doing now. And it's great. He's like a little person.
Yeah.
And so that, so yeah, I mean, you could say you miss it, but I don't really miss it. I'm
I
happy
think you're
where we
still in
are
the
right
phase
now.
too where your kids think you're great. Like when they get to the phase, right, where they don't think you're the best thing in the world anymore.
Yeah,
Gotta get
that I
along.
haven't gotten to yet, and I'm not ready for that. So you just wait on that one right now. I am not there. We're getting there, but I'm not there yet. I'm close. I'm close. No, I'm just gonna stick with this America's Funniest Home Video thing we have going on
I love
because like
it.
we're really bonding because it's great. But but yeah, I don't know. Thinking about like the toddlers and the load, like I would want to say that it gets better or lighter, but it doesn't necessarily get better or lighter. I think the only way that it gets better or lighter is when you start to share the responsibilities wherever you can, whether that's with daycare or your spouse or your parents or family or your village or whoever it is.
Yeah.
That's when I think the mental load can like ease up a little bit, but I think it's sort of almost just as hard, now at 10 versus 3. We just travel with less stuff. When you have babies, you travel with a lot of
Right.
stuff. You don't travel with as much stuff when they
Get
get
rid of
bigger.
that diaper bag. It's
Yeah, once you get rid of that, you're easy. Like that's it. You just have like his clothes and his underwear and a toothbrush and you're good to go. Some books, maybe an
savings.
iPad, I don't know. And
Oh,
that's it. So you definitely like travel lighter physically, but emotionally you're still sort of with the same baggage.
yeah. Yeah, it's just different. But that's right. That's what it comes down with motherhood. It's constantly changing and there's pros and cons to each age and
Yep.
different things in the mental load with each age. It's
Yep.
like when you have newborns, the doctor's like, when was the last time they pooped or something? You're just like, okay, right, trying to
Yes,
think.
I still think that though. I'm like, I'm just making sure he's regular. I like
What are you doing in there?
knock knock knock. You've been in there for 45 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, yes and no. Well, that's because he's like playing video games or something. I don't know. But But like I said, it doesn't ever really go away. And then, I know a lot of like moms of teenagers, and they say like, oh, you think toddlers hard, like wait till you have teenagers. And that's like a big thing I've been seeing or hearing a lot of lately. So like that gets me a little nervous. So like maybe I'm not as worried about like bowel movements, but I'm worried about like their behavior when they're like hanging out with their friends.
Yeah, I went to lunch with a friend yesterday, and her son's driving, or he's not driving yet, but his friends are starting to drive, and
Hmm.
she's got that whole mental load going on because it's like
Yeah.
he's probably not a good driver. He's only supposed to have one kid in the car. He's got five kids in the, like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like,
That
oh, we went 106 miles an hour on the highway. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's
no.
not looking forward to that at all, for
No,
sure.
not looking forward. No, I'm not looking forward to that. Our next big thing is middle school, and like I'm a little worried about middle school too
Mm,
because that's going to be next year. But it's okay. You take it as you can, and like you said, it's all about seasons of motherhood.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
And
a
honestly,
lot.
I think it all comes down to, too, like, you got a lot of balls in the air, and you can't pay attention to all the balls at the same time. They can't all be up, right? They got to come down, but you just got to keep juggling, right? And
Yep.
be okay with the fact that something's going to be like low for a little bit, and it's okay because sometimes it's going to be you, sometimes it's going to be something else, the dog, the house, like
Yep.
whatever
Yep.
it is. But like you said earlier, you got to give yourself grace. That's what it all comes down to, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, going back to the priority thing about the juggling, that's so true because based upon the different seasons of where you are in your motherhood journey, there are different priorities, right? And so I promise you eventually you will then come back to being a top priority. When you're in that, that in the trenches in the survival mode, you're just worried about taking care of those kids and having poops and stuff like that. And you're not washing your hair every day. But once they become school-aged children, and whether you're going to work each day or you're home, you'll be able to take a shower and wash your hair and do those types of things. So
Exciting
the
stuff.
the priorities are always shifting and things are always changing while you're juggling your motherhood.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean it's something I look forward to for sure. But my sister-in-law was saying 5 to 9 is like the 5 to 10, like around there's like the sweet spot of parenting.
Sweet spot. I agree with her 100%. I often tell people 6 to 9 because like I haven't been to 10 yet, so I can't really
Mhm.
speak to that. But he's going to be 10 this month. So I really, yes, I agree. 5 or 6 to 10 is like, it's like clutch.
That's awesome.
And you'll get there before you know it.
I know. I'm kind of starting to feel it with my son a little bit. Not my daughter.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
two,
Well,
so
she's a baby still. Yeah. She has a couple years. We're still talking about the weaning. That's the other episode. Go watch the how to get
oh,
your toddler to stop
good one.
breastfeeding. That's a
With
good one.
that, by the way, it's your tips were great. So yeah, definitely watch it if you're working on it. So.
I'm so glad to hear that. That makes me so happy. Watch that episode. It was a couple weeks ago. Katie Mulvaney, I love you so much. It's 9 o'clock. Thank you for being here today. And we will see all of you next week.